Welcome, friends. This is Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and today joining me is the incomparable, the man, Paul, from the Escape Pod cast channel, a network of channels. Paul, welcome.
Thank you very much. Always good to be here. I love your channel. I love your stuff, So whenever you ask me on, it's like, yeah, of course. You are the OG of TepCon.
I love being part of TepCon. I've taken a little bit of a hiatus, but I'm coming back with some force in these coming weeks. And the video that I've asked you to come to today, and the thing that I think a lot of us are wondering about is the Chiss, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Thrawn. No, I was thinking about whether or not I should invite Neil on, but that would just be like an hour-long debate over new canon versus old canon, and I don't think it would be as effective as I would like it to be. Not yet.
Now remember how I say it. There's the extended universe, and then there's the new canon.
Yeah.
I don't say that it's old canon or no longer canon. It's the extended universe. It's where people went before Disney, and that's okay.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen Star Trek get, a retcon here and there?
Yeah. And the thing that I love about the way that they've done it is they call it legends, right? And the thing about a legend, and the way that they explain is the thing about a legend is a legend can have elements of truth mixed into it. And just like these stories they've created, there's elements of truth mixed into it. Now, Thrawn, this is a phenomenal book.
I always take mine out of the cover. So but you can see that it is the book.
It just looks so pretty. It looks
well,
it looks so
the
pretty.
Blue is what looks pretty.
I know, man. Like the blue is what actually got me to buy it. So I have the hardback edition, I have the audio edition, and when the paperback comes, like next year or something like that, I'll buy dozens of copies just to keep them in like my classroom and stuff. But so the way that we want to do this video, for those of you who are watching, we're gonna do a quick summary and then talk about our overall thoughts of the book. Now, Paul, correct me if I missed some stuff, okay?
And you as well.
All right. So Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising focuses on Thrawn's career in the Chiss Ascendancy, roughly covering from the moment he joined the Myth family and all the way through shortly after the events of Thrawn episode 2, or the second book, Thrawn Treason. And
Correct.
and the events that I'm referring to specifically of Thrawn Treason are the flashback
alliances.
Thank you, alliances. And that's the flashback events, not the future events. Right?
Correct.
So it does have this feeling that it will end shortly before what do you call it? Shortly before
his exile.
Exile, right? And so the book itself is very fascinating. So it follows a very similar pattern to Thrawn alliances, where it is a forward story, then a backstory, then a forward story, then a backstory. You get
a lot of good Star Wars books do. Phasma, alliances, treason. This book.
Yeah. And keep in mind, a lot of them have a similar thread, being that they are written by Timothy Zahn.
Well, Phasma wasn't, but
Phasma wasn't. That's true. Phasma wasn't. But what's interesting about this is at each level, it felt very reminiscent to the original trilogy that was launched for me, right? each time we meet Thrawn in a future moment, right after a flashback, he is a new rank in a new position, doing something new, right? And the one thing that is consistent is he's pissing off the Chiss Ascendancy. And just like he upsets the people of the Empire, he upsets the people of the Ascendancy. Like it is a hit and miss. They either love him or hate him for the work that he does, and it's very interesting. Now, throughout all of these moments, though, he's going up against a new species, a new enemy, who is trying to gather all of these outside planets from the Chiss Ascendancy, so that they can, assumingly, go to war against the Chiss Ascendancy, right? We don't know that that's the ultimate end goal of this main villain, but we do know that he's gathering all of these systems around the Chiss so that the Chiss aren't a threat. And the main story of this book is one particular species or civilization. Thrawn,
the Nicardun.
the Nicardun, yeah. And the Nicardun are that's the main bad guy is a Nicardun, right? And he's called, what is his name? Something the Benevolent.
Yiv.
Yiv the Benevolent.
Yes.
And what a great name to have as an overlord, right? The benevolent of any kind just implies that they're not benevolent at all.
Yeah, it's like a big guy named Tiny.
Yeah, it's a big guy named Tiny, or I don't know, like an ugly person named like Beautiful or Hot Stuff, or I don't know, Hot Pants.
You called me Hot Stuff like just 2 weeks ago.
Well, and it's true.
Okay.
For you, it's true. I mean, no, it's not true for everybody that I say that to. Not that I say that to a lot of people. Just throwing that out there, just in case my wife is watching. But it's what's interesting is there's a lot of back and forth between this main bad guy and Thrawn. And what's interesting about this is I say a lot of back and forth. It's cat and mouse.
It's cat and mouse. There's not back and forth between the two of them.
Yes.
Of course. Yeah. But by the way, this is a spoiler alert if you haven't read the book.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
There's a little bit of there's really only
one scene.
Two scenes.
Well,
where
the
they
first
interact with each other.
That's true. The first and then the final, which is awesome, by the way. Just absolutely fascinating. So you have these, and you're right. There's a back and forth between these two characters, or not back and forth. I keep saying back and forth. There's a cat and mouse game between these two characters, and Thrawn is reading these people, and he's reading these, I don't know, these moments.
He's observing the art to tell him about the culture.
Exactly. And so he's going through. So Yiv. So okay, here it is. Yiv, this bad guy, is going through, and he's trying to get this one last group to his side, and he's doing all of these things to get them to join, right? If they don't join, then he will just take them over, and it'll be their thing. But what happens is Thrawn starts to notice that there are these little things going on, and he starts to interfere between this taking over of this group, this civilization. And so it ultimately climaxes in a battle between Thrawn and this one guy, right? And Thrawn shows up by himself. He's in like a transport ship against this giant,
shuttle. Yeah.
Yeah, a shuttle versus like this dreadnought master class pirate shit, right? And he has no weapons. He's got nothing. And in very Thrawn fashion, he is egging the bad guy on at every turn. And it is hilarious. The scene in my mind, I was giggling, the whole time. When I first read it, I was like, whoo! I couldn't put the book down. I was like, this is awesome. And then when I listened to it, because the voice acting is just so amazing.
I've only read.
I recommend it highly. I will from here on out, I will buy the audiobook and I will buy a physical copy for my library. It to me, it is absolutely worth it because, and I won't do that for all of the books, but Thrawn, hands down, there's no doubt that will happen. But so it's hilarious because Thrawn is unraveling this plan of this Yiv the Benevolent, and he ultimately defeats him, and he defeats him in one of the most unique ways because you can't get onto the ship, he can't bring a tractor beam in, and he's going to be shot down if he gets close, kind of a thing. So Thrawn takes his ship and rams it into the starport of Yiv the Benevolence. And then while everyone is like dazed and confused, Thrawn goes in and just it's amazing. It's this
it's not just the dazed and confused from the fact that he smashed the
true.
he smashed it in there. It's once again, last chance, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
His the two people that are with him in that scene of Chiss origin have a lot to play in it with the fact that they they've been holding in this this basically sleepwalking gas, as they called it.
Yeah. And so it's what's interesting to me is this book was way different than I expected. I mean, I was not expecting this book that we got at all. I was expecting Thrawn to hang out with Ezra and to fight his way back to the Empire and other stuff. I was not expecting a backstory. I had avoided all spoilers. So, typically what you'll see with a book release is they'll launch like a chapter. It's usually like the first chapter of a book, probably about like 3 months before the book itself launches, kind of to build hype. Maybe up to like 6 months. I don't know the specific time frame there, but what's interesting here is that it is I avoided all of it, and so it is totally different than what I expected, and I loved it more than I could have possibly imagined because it was different. I thought it was just so good. Uh, but it's his backstory, and it's so well done. Oh, you're on mute, Paul.
It's not just his backstory in all of this either.
Yeah.
We also find out about Admiral Arlani.
Yes. I was so it's one of the things that's interesting, and this again is a spoiler, is Arlani is with Thrawn in every real-time moment, right? In every moment, in every now moment that we get, present tense moment that we get in the book, Arlani is almost always there or connected somehow. In the flashbacks, you get a character who goes through and introduces like he's with Thrawn, or she's with Thrawn this whole time, and they don't call her Arlani because that's not her name at the time.
In a way, it was Isri Arlani.
Yes, and so what's interesting is like I've never been more fascinated in a fictional novel to learn about naming conventions of a species. Like I was absolutely flabbergasted that I was so excited. I spent 30 minutes during a class lecture talking about naming conventions of the Chiss. I'm talking to middle school kids and like they were totally zoning out on me. But like I'm like, here's Mithh'raw'nuruodo, and like this is what part of his name means, and this is what another. It was so cool. And what's really neat to me is the level of detail that Timothy Zahn put into this, because it is so
Oh,
well done.
so we definitely have to talk about the very, very front of this book in and of itself, because the detail that you're talking about, other than, of course, the timeline,
Yes.
which, is great. The first thing you see going into it is a whole bunch of, it's the, he introduces the people, and
Yeah.
then the 9 ruling families, which, by the way, the 9 ruling families.
Yep.
And then family ranks and the political hierarchy of the Chiss. Just throws it all out at you. And when I first opened this book, I'm going, okay, I'll try.
Yeah. There's a lot to this that I felt was absolutely subtly done, but done really well. We get a lot of backstory on the myth, not just the myth, but like the Chiss in general. We do get a lot of backstory. I will say one of the things that's fascinating about this story is Thrawn is brought into. He's not originally a myth, so what you need to know about the Chiss families, or the Chiss political structure, is the ruling classes. You can belong to a family. You can be born into it, or you can be adopted into it. Again, absolutely fascinating concepts here. But you can be born into it and you can be adopted into it. Thrawn is not a blood myth. He was adopted. He was and so we don't know we know in the moment that, like, from the moment he was brought in, that's it. And he was brought in at a fairly young age. I want to it made it sound
Early
I don't think
teens.
early
teens, it
teens.
seemed like.
Yeah, it was like 12 to 13 would be the age that I was thinking.
I'm gonna look back here.
Yeah. I didn't remember there being a specific age, but I felt tween being right. Tween felt right. But he was as obtuse when it comes to certain things as he always is. And so he was brought in, and we find out later, by none other than the patriarch of the myth, right? The family is like, hey, this kid's got some talent.
So his name was Thrawn's original name was Vuron, according to this. And if we go take a look, the ruling families, the Ufsa, the Urizi, the Dasklo, the Klar, the Chaff, the Plick, the Bodil, Myth, and Obik. So really, honestly, he came from a family that was not one of the 9 ruling families.
Yeah. And there are other families, but it's the ruling class that is, now what's interesting is you have, and I forget the name of the home planet. It spaces me now. But we find out that the home planet was kind of destroyed. It said that a sun burned out, and now all these ruling families live underground. But oh man, there's just so much about this book. Like the whole
Scylla.
Ilum.
Cilla.
Scylla, right. Thank you. So one of the things about this whole planet is, as I was reading it, and it talks about how this planet was a sun destroyed it, and now the families have moved underground eons and eons ago. and how the history books teach people what they want them to know, not the truth, right? And so Thrawn learned about this planet uh, in a way that wasn't the truth. And what it reminded me of was how in, I think it's the Bane series, where you have General Hoth, who has who makes a stand on a planet that becomes Hoth because of the, like, there's a, I think, called a spirit bomb, a Sith spirit bomb, and it kills all force users, and it turns like the life of the planet, it just destroys the planet. And so, like, it was really interesting to me as I was reading about this planet, how eons and eons ago the sun blew up and something happened. But again, part of me thinks, well, how much truth are we learning here? Is this truth that was taught, or truth that is being taught when it shouldn't? Does that make sense? I mean, it's really interesting to me. But there was one thing towards the very beginning of the book that I think the Chiss were part of the Jedi Sith Civil War.
But they, in a way, yeah.
And
they were to a point.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find out more in the future, but because of they had their own stuff they had to worry about. But
true.
Thrawn did interact with Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
When Anakin was searching for Padme, right?
Yes.
I guess right when they were getting serious. I don't think they were secretly married yet.
I don't think they were,
because it would, the marriage took place in 2, and if I'm correct, this takes place right before 2. Hang on.
Yeah.
Just double check again. And by the way, I was wondering if something like that would happen. This takes place right before 3. I'm sorry, so they would have been married.
So they, because it's he's not looking for Padme, he's looking for Padme's assistant.
Right.
And like Padme then goes out, right? Isn't that the thing? And then so I think there's, anyways, like it's really interesting, because this is where they meet the General Skywalker. And for the Chiss, a Skywalker is a force sensitive navigator who loses their power around the age of 14.
Right.
Right.
But they also do exhibit Jedi-like powers because there was a line in there where Cherie ended up sensing that Thrawn was going to come out of the door 3 seconds before he came out of the door.
Yep. And so one of the things that I've got to wonder, and like in the original trilogy, we have a character whose name I forget, but it's a character that that I feel like Eli Vanto starts to feel ways about. I want to say it's in
What
Treason.
was Eli Vanto's name? Eli had a full
Chiss
name.
Yeah, he had.
I'm looking this up.
it's Vanto or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it was actually quite just simply Eli Vanto.
Yeah.
Avant. Avant.
Yeah. Evanto. But one of the things that he's tasked with in is it treason, or is it, I want to say it's treason, is he's told that he's looking for specifically reasons why some people can keep the force sensitive nature longer than others. And it's kind of a fascinating moment because it makes me wonder if the girl, and I want to, Vanya is her name, and isn't it the Navigator Vanya?
For which one?
For the young girl in the Skywalker in this book.
In this one was Cherie.
Cherie was the mom.
No, Thurfian. Or not Thurfian. Cherie was the Skywalker. Oh, I'm blanking on her name right now, but I know it's at the beginning. It is Thalias. Mithh'raw'nuruodo.
Yes. So part of me wonders if one of these girls grows up to be the girl in Thrawn Treason. The older girl who's, it sounds like she's in her late teens, early 20s, who's still a navigator, and she's the one that's coupled up with Eli to figure everything out.
I now am very interested in
right
seeing.
I mean, like, I got to do some more digging into this, but like there's a lot of connection in my mind, and I think that just like we saw Thrawn show up in Treason, or show up in Alliances, I think that these next couple of books will also have moments where Thrawn is in other areas of, I don't know, of the game, or the canon.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm looking it up here. I cannot find. I'm looking for the name of the Skywalker girl. You know, we the funny thing is that we just glazed over it, just like we glazed over Arlani.
Yeah.
Like right at the very beginning of the book.
Yeah. And it's insane because, like, it all comes full circle, you know? When people ask me why I like Thrawn, or what I like about Thrawn, and it is hands down, Thrawn is like the Sherlock Holmes of the Star Wars universe. He's very,
I could see that, but he's not really. I see why you say the Sherlock Holmes of Star Wars, but I mean, he's in and of himself.
yes.
I mean, Thrawn cannot be easily depicted just by saying blue skin, red-eyed Sherlock Holmes.
That's true.
Does no justice to him.
It doesn't. No, it is. So looking it up now, I'm looking at Wikipedia. Thrawn Treason. The girl's name is Vanya. Chiss Navigator Vanya. She's a 22-year-old Chiss woman who is force sensitive, and aboard the Chiss ship. This is Admiral Arlani's ship, whose name I forget. But Vanto's job is to figure out why she is in, why she's able to keep the force when everyone else loses force ability at like 12 to 14, right? In fact, in Thrawn Ascendancy, we have a main character who loses the force earlier than any others, than most other navigators lose it, and it's a huge defeat. It's a huge blow to her because she's not prepared for that. She's not prepared to lose the force or figure out what to do next. And what is interesting is she still talks about later in the book that while she's not like what you would consider force sensitive, she's still able to kind of manipulate the weak-minded, you know?
No. Okay, it does not. There is no possible way it could be Cherie.
No.
because Cherie, no, there's no way of Vanya from Cherie, even
Yeah.
if she was renamed. Not renamed, but replaced into a house of her choice.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So no.
sadly, we have not met Vanya yet.
We have not met Vanya. Okay, good to know. But I'm very curious to know what's gonna happen next. Cause here's my overall question. Is Thrawn a good guy?
I mean, sorry to play the meme, if you will, from a certain point of view.
Indeed. Like from a certain point of view. Cause here's the thing. The thing that I've learned about Thrawn in this series, not just like this version of Thrawn, he values life. He is loyal to the Chiss, like brutally loyal to the Chiss, but he's willing to see in other people value, more than just like this. In this book, it makes a big deal out of how Thrawn doesn't see people as people, or anyone who's not Chiss as people. He sees them as assets.
Mm-hmm.
And which is something that we've seen throughout the other books. He looks at Vanto, he looks at not Tarkin, ISB officer Yularen, thank you. Yularen is definitely an asset. The way that he treats people is asset. He's like, this is an asset. This is where we should do. Like, he doesn't view them as people if they're not Chiss. And in this book and in other books, it talks about how he's not good at politics. And here we learned that he's never been good at politics. But I wonder if in the Thrawn trilogy that is the Thrawn that we know, before this, is he playing a role? Because we know that he is playing at least some role, but is he playing more of a role than he's letting on?
I would say yes. I mean, we saw that in Treason with the interactions with Arlani.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that?
So, I mean, the discussions that the private discussions that he had, pretty much the only other person in the room was the Skywalker, the middle-aged Skywalker, we'll say. And
Pastor
Eli.
Prime.
And Eli has pretty much, been brought up Chiss since he graduated from the academy.
Yeah.
So I think that he's still playing a role in the EDF. I really do. But I think that I think we're going to find out that assets are to himself and not necessarily to the Chiss Ascendancy. But to be honest with you, he sees the Chiss Ascendancy can raise him up, and they are a very, very big asset.
That would be interesting, because the one difference that I see with the old canon versus this new canon, Thrawn almost seems selfless in the new canon. Like, he always wants to serve, right? No matter, and whether it's the Empire, whether it's the Ascendancy, he's always willing to serve. But in the old canon, I feel like, yes, he wants to serve, but he wants that power, right?
Which we'll get into. Just one little Easter egg. I don't know if you noticed it.
I might not have.
But one little Easter egg at the very end of this book, that has to do with the old trilogy?
No, I don't think I did.
All right. Well, when we get to the very end here, well,
Okay.
I'll reveal it.
Please do, because I've gone through and I've read the trilogies, but it's been years.
Okay. Without you opening it and without you going into it, do you have a copy of Heir of the Empire close by right now?
Maybe. If I do, it's right here. Should I get it?
You should get it. You should get it. So the show's going to pause for a second.
I have Shadow of the Empire, but not Heir of the Empire.
Okay, so you do not. So what I'll do is I'll have you read the last line of this book, and then I will read to you an excerpt from Heir to the Empire.
Okay, actually, hold on. I'm looking on my Kindle to see if it's on my Kindle. No, it's Heir to the Jedi. Dang it. All right. Okay.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We've got it. We've got it.
So the last line of this book.
So are we wrapping up this discussion of Ascendancy?
Yes.
Okay. So we end up one thing I do want to mention.
Okay.
You know, after his defeat of Yiv the Benevolent, we then find out that apparently there is another person that was pulling the strings of Yiv himself.
Yes.
Due to this person that is a recurring character in the book from his memories and the current story. That would be Kiori.
Oh, yes. Okay. I was like
Kilori.
Kilori, yes.
So, all right. Now, after that, you know, the last pretty much part of the book is a tease to the future of Thrawn Chaos Rising novels.
Okay.
So why don't you read the last three paragraphs there?
Starting with excellent.
Starting with yes, Kilori said.
Yes, Kilori said. Oh, sorry. Yes, Kilori said. May I, if I can't have your name, can you at least tell me what to call you? Jixtus, the voice said. You may call me Jixtus. Make good note of that name, Kilori of Uendualan. It's the name of he who will finally and completely destroy the Chiss Ascendancy.
All right. Heir to the Empire.
Okay, yes. Now, I will say I was listening to Heir to the Empire something recently where I was connected with it.
Heir to the Empire, 11th page. Last lines of the last lines of the first chapter in Heir to the Empire.
Okay.
Thrawn smiled, a smile that sent a shiver up Paleon's back. Why, the only puzzle worth solving, of course, the Grand Admiral said softly. The complete, total, and utter destruction of the rebellion.
Okay, so
we've got a mirror, pretty much a mirror revelation.
Yeah,
at the end of this book and at the beginning of Heir to the Empire.
Weird. And crazy. Like this makes everything come full circle. Like how as we started talking about the Legend series, the expanded universe, and now the new canon. This is the idea of a legend. There's bits of truth in legend, right? And again, this is what I love about reading the new stuff, is how it connects back to the old stuff, how it connects to everything. I'm very excited for not only the next book, but possibly the next time we see Thrawn, which could be before the next book and within the next 4 weeks.
You're still holding on to the hope that we're going to see Thrawn in Mandalorian, aren't you?
Absolutely.
You know what? I don't like making bets, but I'm going to make a bet with you.
Okay.
For the end of this video. All right.
Okay.
The bet is this: if we see Thrawn, and not just a flashback or something, if
But like a
Thrawn
legit character,
becomes a character to note for people who don't know who Thrawn is.
mm-hmm.
Do you understand how I mean that?
Yes. So like if he is introduced as this is Thrawn, kind of.
Yes. Instead of just commented,
Yeah.
Here's the grave of Thrawn. No.
Yeah.
If he's actually a character introduced in Mandalorian, then I have to Zeta your choice. the strongest Zeta I don't have yet.
Okay.
You get to choose my next Zeta that I should have already done in the first place.
All right. That's a fair bet.
And vice versa.
Now, and I'll do you one better. Okay? If Thrawn is not played by Timothy Olyphant, I'll Zeta 2.
What? So you're going as far as to say Timothy Olyphant
will
playing
play Thrawn? Yes. The greatest secret of the new... He's the Baby Yoda of season 2.
Okay.
But I don't think he'll be like a main character. I think he'll show up in passing.
But he'll be somebody that we need to know.
Yeah.
People who don't know Star Wars are going to be like wanting to know more about Thrawn.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And he'll be played by Timothy Olyphant. Throwing 2 Zetas on this guy.
All right. So by the end of season 2, if we don't see a blue-skinned, red-eyed Chiss by the name of Mithh'raw'nuruodo,
played by
Timothy Olyphant, we will broadcast it live on the Escape podcast that following week.
Yes. So this is the way that it'll play out. Okay, you ready? If Timothy Olyphant doesn't, like, if we see him as someone else, that's immediately a Zeta for you. I get to choose. You get to choose
Zeta.
Okay. Yeah, you get to choose a Zeta. But if Thrawn shows up later on, I keep a second Zeta.
Okay, deal.
But if he doesn't show up,
if he doesn't show up at all, 2.
Yes.
If we see Timothy Olyphant, 1 right away. If he's not Thrawn,
if he's not Thrawn,
it happens to me.
Yep, I'm excited for this. I think
we're gonna. I think the next time we see Thrawn is Rebels 2.
I think you're probably right, but I don't know. I'm hoping Timothy Olyphant. We'll see, right? That being said, Paul, thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. Can you give us your final reasoning why people should or should not read Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising?
Well, I absolutely think that you should. I give this one 5 momishes out of 5. Why that made Thaddeus laugh, you'll have to read to find out. Indeed. But even if you don't know Thrawn from Heir to the Empire, the Thrawn trilogy, even if you don't know the first 3 canon books that have already been put out, this is a wonderful springboard into it. And if you love the interaction between Thrawn and Anakin later on in the book, you will want to go back to the previous trilogy.
Yep.
Because they repeated my favorite part of that book in this book.
Agreed. 100%.
Fine, Thrawn.
Fine, Thrawn. And both Chiss are just like giggling in the cut, like Thrawn. That's what I said. No, Mithh'raw'nuruodo. Yeah, that's what I said. No. Fine. Thrawn. Wonderful. I agree, Paul. This is, I almost called you Thrawn. I agree, Paul. Like this is an amazing this is an amazing springboard into Thrawn. And I do think that this is actually going to be a springboard into a greater part of the galaxy that we haven't really explored yet. I think this will start off other areas of the canon that really haven't been looked into just yet.
The chaos is the Outer Rim.
Yeah.
So technically Chaos Rising.
Yeah.
It's the Empire coming into command.
Yeah. And that could be in that is interesting, because I haven't thought about that. Because I looked back who were in episode 9, who are all those people? They call them acolytes, but how many of them are Chiss?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean,
but nonetheless,
true.
Chaos Rising, Rising power, And hang on, let me get the strings.
I will say one thing that I found fascinating as we end. They refer to the Empire, the space that we know, as lesser space, right? And they refer to the place where they're navigating through as the chaos, right? But I love that they call what we're familiar with lesser space, right? I loved that because it made me feel like they were just that much more proud, full of themselves, yeah, of what they were. I thought it was great. I thought it was wonderful. Paul, where can people find you?
People can find me on the Escape Podcast. Mainly, the main show is Fridays at 8:30 Eastern. It runs about 2 hours. We talk about Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. But wait, there's more. I also host with Sam Hebert, also known as the Llama. Every Thursday at 8:30, we talk about Lego Legacy Heroes Unboxed. You'll find my hetero life partner and co-host of the Escape Podcast, Neil Andrew Heir, also known as the Nev, doing his Grand Arena Championships at high noon Central Time. That's why we like to call it 1:00 p.m. Eastern on the Escape Podcast on twitch.tv/Escape Podcast. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you can search for the Escape Podcast. We would love to stay above that 1,000 mark. So give us a subscribe there. It's the free kind, or a follow over on Twitch. We're almost at 1,000 on Twitch. I mean,
I saw that.
We're getting close to 750.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of fun. We're huge Star Wars nerds. But we're not limited just to that.
True.
I'm looking forward to talking Mando with you once Mando comes back around.
Just a few weeks away, my friend.
I know.
A few short weeks, and then we'll be.
And this week, or in this season of Talking Mando, we welcome fellow Escape Podcastaway and Bounty Honey member Geek Girl. Yeah,
it'll be nice to have a feminine perspective other than Nev, and it'll be nice. But yeah, Geek Girl she's also one of the Escape Pod TepCon
Castaways.
creators, Castaways. Yep. So awesome. Yeah, check those guys out. They are wonderful. They have a whole network of awesome programming, and like Paul said, not just Star Wars, but so much more. And it's just a fun, awesome community to be a part of. It's what keeps me streaming and making content, to be honest.
And to not miss the fact that there is a Sports Center type show. If you love Grand Arena, GA Center is the name of the show. We break down 58 content creators from around the globe, and give you the stats of how they did in their Grand Arena championships. And I'm going to tell you that Dunce Camp is going home with me. If I get stopped, I'm blowing your numbers out of the water.
I gotta say, this week was hard for me because I emotionally couldn't do it. I went 1-2, and I think my losses were only like 25 or 30. It was tragic. The quantity, the so small a quantity of losses. It was sad.
See, I full cleared. I only had one loss during the entire time, but I'm telling you, Thad, if I get stuck somewhere, Padme's gonna see every single character in my roster.
And that wouldn't surprise me. All right.
I will give it my all, and I will put everything on the line to beat that team.
I want that Dunce Cap, Paul. I want it.
All right.
So,
well,
all right.
Thaddeus, remember, protect those that you love, wear a mask, and be nice to each other, damn it. You've been watching Going Nerdy on YouTube. And everybody, remember to smile.
And stay nerdy.